Right. There you go. Great work. Big deal right there.
The governor signed state immigration law in February, the product of state lawmakers aiming to control what they could, though immigration is, as you know, federal jurisdiction. One of those laws making crossing state lines into Florida illegal for undocumented people, that is on hold by a judge until the end of the month. But Florida Highway Patrol arrested a man this week for doing just that. But there may be a bigger issue with that because the man they arrested is actually an American citizen. Juan Carlos Lopez-Gomez lives in Cairo, South Georgia, and was headed to work in Tallahassee Wednesday when his friend driving the car was pulled over for speeding. Troopers arrested Lopez-Gomez and charged him with crossing into Florida illegally. Immigration and Customs Enforcement placed a federal immigration hold on him, but Lopez-Gomez is an American citizen, actually born in Georgia. A Leon County judge authenticated his birth certificate Thursday. He was released. Mutaqee Akbar is his attorney, joining us right now from Tallahassee to figure some of this out. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and happy Easter.
Thank you, same. And a lot of people are so confused about this arrest. I mean, his mother apparently brought to the scene his birth certificate, his social security card, and yet he was arrested and detained. How is that even possible?
It's a very troubling event, very troubling arrest, of course. He was, as you stated, he was pulled over as a passenger in the vehicle. And he had a Georgia ID, which you cannot get a Georgia ID unless you are a U.S. citizen. He also actually had his social security card on him as well. And then, like you said, his mother presented the birth certificate, and that wasn't enough for the officer. Juan told us that the trooper barely spoke any Spanish. He conveyed to him that he was a U.S. citizen, and even doing that, he was still arrested under this new law, which has been enjoined by a federal judge and taken into custody and detained for 48 hours.
So as we try to figure out why this is, I mean, obviously you are an advocate for him. You are his attorney. We did pull the arrest form to get a sense of what Florida Highway Patrol troopers were thinking or saying. And I want to read right from that probable cause affidavit that says the passengers exited the vehicle and the trooper asked if the driver and passengers, if they were here illegally, and they stated yes. They said they had never been contacted by Border Patrol or ICE. They were asked if they knew they entered the state of Florida legally, and according to the trooper, they said yes, that they were aware. So, you know, not only verbally did the trooper say they admitted to being here illegally, even though your client was a citizen. You know, do you chalk that up to a language difficulty?
Best case scenario is a language difficulty. Worst case scenario is that the trooper was just not being honest, which would not be a rare occurrence, unfortunately.
I don't really want to, assign that kind of thing to a trooper who's not here to defend himself. But there's aside from the talk at the scene, there's a birth certificate involved. And
exactly.
And besides the birth certificate, why would there be an ICE hold, an immigration federal detention hold on a U.S. citizen?
And that's based entirely on what the trooper put in the affidavit, and it's also based off of, there was also a detainer that's attached to the affidavit that you should have as well. And they actually checked the box that says that it was verified that he was not a U.S. citizen, which is not true. They stated that biometrics verified that, which would have been fingerprints or some other method. And they also attributed it to what they're saying is Juan statements as well, which again, language barrier. He not only speaks Spanish, but he also has a Mayan dialect as well, which would contribute to whatever language barrier that it was. So unless they did something to verify those statements, unless they did something to make sure that the interpretation was correct, I don't believe that they should go the extent to place that detention on him, especially when they see a social security card, especially when they see a birth certificate, especially when they have a Georgia ID. That's the real ID as well, that has that star on it. So even if there was some confusion in the conversation, they have everything in front of them that says that he is a U.S. citizen, and the trooper just got it wrong.
So the process worked. The judge at first appearance saw the birth certificate, well, it didn't drop the charge, it still has to go for, I guess, arraignment to drop the charge, but released him. I mean, that the court process here worked. But I wonder if I could just take in our last minute or so. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I just want to say, not exactly. It worked for the criminal charge, but it didn't work for the detainer.
Right.
So
yes.
even though the judge
yes.
said that there was no probable cause for the criminal charge, he
yes.
was still detained, and it took the sheriff's office to say that they were going to release him, release that ICE hold from him.
Right. Okay. So in the last minute, this case, and we're focusing on a case, but because this law is so new and at the moment put on hold, so I know the Attorney General sent a memo over the weekend, okay, everybody do not enforce this law for now. But what does this sort of portend when this kind of legal action nets a U.S. citizen as well?
I think that raises the same concerns that Judge Williams in the Southern District raised when she said that this would be just a violation of due process, a violation of equal protection, and it also is an undue burden on citizens themselves when they have to actually prove their own citizenship. So her concerns are very valid, and that's the reason why this injunction was put in place in the first place, in order to stop this law, because of those real concerns. And so I believe this is a great example of why this law should not go forward, and a great example of why we should protect our own citizens, because it's not only going to affect, the profiling of our Hispanic citizens, it can affect the profiling of Americans in general.
What's your next move?
Our next move is we're looking into what the civil liability is on this, because the law was enjoined, so he should not have been arrested, and he also proved on site that he was a citizen, so he should not have been detained. And just like any other unlawful arrest, I believe he has a civil claim in this.
Mutaqee Akbar, I appreciate your time. Will you please do keep in touch with us as this moves forward?
We will. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.